We want to help you be the very best missionary so that you can give your very best to the people you're serving. What makes this podcast unique is it's done by missionaries for missionaries. How can we take timeless principles and apply them to our lives as missionaries? That's really our heart behind this. Well, today we're welcoming Mark and Pam Johnson to the podcast. We are so glad that you are both with us here today. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, we are so excited to be with you. Thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this. We just can hardly wait to get into everything that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, we've been looking forward to this, and we're really glad that we can be here today.
Oh, yay. It's going to be a great conversation.
Yes.
You know, for those of you who are just getting to know Mark and Pam, they're the pastoral care pastors at River Valley Church in Minnesota, which is a phenomenal church with campuses all over the Twin Cities. And their role there, they oversee marriage and pre-marriage, prayer, freedom ministry, counseling, benevolence, and missionary care. Yay, my favorite part.
That's right.
Yes.
And they've been involved in ministry. You guys were telling me your entire married life, which is 42 years.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, we started in ministry even before we got married, but during our dating years, and it just continued all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a great joy to be able to be a part of that and just see all the things that God has done. And today, of course, we're talking about missionary care, and it is a passion of ours as well.
Absolutely. Yes.
That is such a blessing. And I know we got to meet for the first time at a missions conference this past year.
Yes.
And you both were sharing on missionary care in a workshop. I knew immediately that day, I have got to meet these two.
Oh.
You were so genuine and passionate, not just about missions, but about missionaries themselves.
Yes.
And that was what really impacted me. And when I heard then what River Valley does for missionaries, I was blown away. I have personally never encountered anything like it. I believe you said the goal of River Valley is to have 500 missionaries sent from the church. Is that right?
Yes, that is right.
It's a huge and a big vision. And when Pastor Rob shared that vision, we just knew that sending out that many missionaries, they need to be cared for. And we just began to talk and dialogue about that, and just the gifting that God had given to us over our years of married life. We thought, I just feel this in our hearts that this is something we need to develop and to work on, because I mean, we had friends of ours on the mission field, and there were definitely times when they would share with us some of the struggles that they were faced with, specifically even in their marriage. And we just thought, we need to have a process and a way that we are able to come alongside them, partner together with them, and care for them.
Yeah, I think about that. I think there's some people that go, there's some people that send them or help them to go, and then there's some people that care. But all of us can be involved in the Great Commission in one way or another. And so we're partners together with them, and we find it a great joy. It has enhanced our personal walk with Christ and our relationship with one another to have and to be involved with things like this. And so it's exciting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, it takes so many people really to be able to send even one missionary. I mean, the team, I think, from the passport country has to be greater even than the amount of missionaries that's sent. So we need people like you guys. So I just feel grateful to see you doing what you're doing for missionaries and spreading your passion to the people at the church you're at missions conferences. And Pam, you touched on what we're going to talk about today. And that is pulling from another one of your areas, which is marriage and pre-marriage, what you've talked about. So today we're going to be hitting on family relationships, and specifically within that, marriage, how to do marriage on the mission field. We know that there are general principles in the Bible about how to do marriage well in marriage books, but sometimes as missionaries, we need to figure out what's some of the secret sauce to making those things work on the field. And that's something you guys have done. You've worked with countless marriages, but not just marriages, but missionary marriages.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear what some of the unique challenges you see missionaries facing in their marriages?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things we could categorize it in a few different areas. One is foundational, their spiritual walk. When they're in country here or their passport country, they have the support structure of a church, the community that they're a part of, the rhythms of their life. Then they go over to their area that they're going to work in, and a lot of that is not available there. And so in their own spiritual walk, they have to learn how to almost self-feed themselves with in their spiritual walk.
Right.
And so foundational issues come up. We see that from time to time. There's the issue of being resilient.
Yes.
And I think that challenges and difficulties with different cultures and adaptation, language learning. I know we've talked to people who are very successful here, and then they go there and they feel like they're in kindergarten or whatever because they don't know the language, and it's hard. And so just the challenges of that. Sometimes we've seen that there have been past stressors that have been part of their life, and that impacts them in a greater measure over there because they don't have the same support structure.
Right.
And so I think that that's really hard. Those are a couple things. Do you think a couple others?
Yeah, I think sometimes just even with families and children, maybe sometimes health challenges might come into play, and how to work through that and getting the resources that are needed to be able to help, whether it's, mom and dad, husband and wife, or children. All of those things can present challenges that can stress our marriage. We've kind of learned that if there's a little fracture in our marriage before we go on the field, it will present itself so much greater as we are on the field. And that has been definitely stated by other missionaries that would say it would be important, and we've put this in place now, that a couple, before they go on the field, that they go through marriage mentoring ahead of time to be able to work through anything that might be going on in their relationship and have the tools. That's a really important part, having tools to work through the challenges and the conflict when you get on the field. And I think that couples have said to us how important that's been for them.
That's huge, Pam, because so what you're saying, it makes me think sometimes of the couple who has difficulty in their marriage, and they think, well, if we just have a baby, it will be better. and everything it'll unify us, and it'll be amazing. It'll be great. And I think sometimes there are couples maybe who are struggling in their marriage, and they might think that a particular transition will somehow make it better. Well, God's calling us on the field, and once we get there, it'll all be better. But what you're saying is to make that investment on the front end. So for couples who are listening, who are maybe early on being missionaries, or who are about to go abroad to be missionaries, to really pay attention to their marriage now to set some foundational things in place.
For sure.
Exactly.
I think it's so wise. And like we were just saying, just having tools. I think I always think of like having a tool bag. And my tool bag, I have a variety of different things that I have learned and to use or to utilize. And then when challenges come, then I'm able to, this is a great time to use this tool. We have this in one of our marriage mentoring processes. It's called rounding the bases. And it's being able to identify whatever that issue is that we are dealing with each other. Then that's first base. Second base is to validate that issue, like to what degree is that a challenge or a difficulty, and be able to validate one another in that. And then third base is to be able to come up with that solution. What do I need, or how can we come together into a place where we both agree on a way to, have a solution. And then once we've done that, home run, woo, we score.
That's right.
So something simple like that can help us.
Yeah. And I would say earlier on in our marriage, we didn't do that very well.
No, because we didn't know about it.
We didn't know about it. And I think the thing too is that helped us a lot is to say, okay, we have different issues and we have different perspectives, and each perspective is okay. There's differences. And instead of arguing with this or whatever, put the issue out on the table.
Yes.
And address the issue out here instead of addressing
Right.
here.
Yeah.
So there's a number of different tools that are part of that are really helpful
Yes.
and encouraging. And then not only that, I think when, as a Christ follower, when you do put focus on an area, the Holy Spirit has a way to, and God's word has a way to really refine the different things that are in your heart and the way that you respond and that you deal with different issues. So I think focus is important.
Focus is huge. And this concept of toolbox that you guys are bringing up is so good. It makes me think of somebody who's maybe in some type of construction business. So I think anybody who's constructing something or building something, whether it's a house or whether it's another type of building, there's going to be general tools that they're all going to have. Everybody's going to have a hammer. Everybody's going to have a tape measure. There are some general tools that we all have, but then also depending on the type of project that you're building, you're going to have some tools that are specific to what it is that you're doing. And so when we think about missionary marriages, what might be some general tools that they're going to have, and what might be some tools that would be specific to missionaries?
That's
a good question.
Yes.
What
you
know, think?
Here's some of the things that have been helpful to missionaries that we've worked with. They love to be able to access, like maybe marriage small group studies. We have found a great resource, and I don't know if your mission organization is part of is a member of it. It's called Right Now Media, and Right Now Media has probably, I want to say, at least 15,000 different types of studies, podcasts, all kinds of things to reach. Any topic you want, you can find it on there. And so I kind of feel like that could be a great resource or a tool that, let's go through this marriage study that's on, Right Now Media or some other one. The other resource that we have also found is Family Life. Family Life, is it a .org or .com? I'm not quite sure.
I cannot remember, but one of the things I do is I actually get a daily email from Family Life that's marriage related. It's an email of 250 words or less. It's not a big thing, but as I read that, I reflect on it a little bit, and sometimes it applies to us, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always a additional reminder to me on an almost daily basis. I do miss reading some of them, but I do read most of them, and they're very good. And I think that, again, when you have focus and you apply things, it's helpful. So we've encouraged a number of people to have that just sent to them.
Yeah, even like a devotional book, like a marriage devotional, or just something where you are talking to one another at a deeper place. And that's one of the things that we talk about here at River Valley and beyond into our missionaries, is having these 3 rhythms in our marriage. And one of them being daily connect time. It's so important that we have that daily connection with one another. And it's not just about surface things like, what did you eat today or something like that. But the goal is to have a deeper conversation with one another, to get to the level of what I'm feeling, what I need, those kinds of things. And so that daily connect time, can be such an important part. And so sometimes having these other kinds of resources like a podcast that you're watching, or a marriage study, or an email that you get, every day on marriage, can promote those conversations to happen and to talk about each other.
Yeah.
I like what you're mentioning there about having a framework, like going off of a devotional or having something that you're reading. I know a really simple one we do at our house is we talk about highs and lows. What was your high of the day? What was your low of the day? But sometimes having something as an outline or a framework, it gives you a starting place so that you're not staring at each other going, hey, what'd you do today? And let's be real. I like with missionaries too, when you're serving together, I don't know, every missionary is different in what they do. I think for some couples, they don't see each other much at all. Maybe it's a divide and conquer.
Mhm.
Other couples, I know they serve together constantly and like they're together so much that they would never ask, what did you do today? Because like
Yeah.
you were next to me all day. So
Yeah.
especially during quarantine, these past 2 years,
Yeah.
like, what did you do today? You were there and I was
Yeah.
here in the house all day. So what do we even talk about? But digging a little bit deeper by using something to jump off is a great way of doing
Yeah.
daily connect time. That's so
Yeah.
important.
Yes.
Well, I think that's really important too. You talked about what was a high point for you today
Mhm.
and what was a challenge for you today. Those are great questions
Yeah.
because what you're doing is you're getting beyond just the surface things. And it's
Yeah.
okay to talk about some surface things. Those
Yeah.
things are important,
Mhm.
but it's not really getting to the point where your hearts are connecting with one another and learning.
Yes.
And I can remember earlier on when I did leave during the day and I'd come back and she was taking care of kids. The kids later would go to bed and we would sit and talk about the day. And I say, tell me about your day. And usually there were challenges
Mhm.
like there can be from time to time. And I made a mistake in the beginning because I had solutions.
He was Mr. Fix-It Man.
That's
I
right.
bet you loved that, Pam.
That's right.
He had his toolbox ready to pull out the tools.
I used a hammer when I should have used a tape measure.
It was the wrong kind of toolbox, huh?
That's right. And so in regards to that, she would share with me, and I got to the point where I could say something like, that sounds challenging. How else? How else did that impact you today? So it's not even trying to fix anything. It's trying to validate.
Yep.
We have a little acronym, listen, L-U-V, it's listen, and just really hear what the other person says. U is to understand to the best of your ability. And then V is to validate.
Mhm.
And there's no F in there for fix it. So it's L-U-V. And it's a way we share love with one another.
Mhm.
Listen,
Yeah.
understand, and validate.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
what you're bringing up right now too can be used anywhere you're living.
Yeah.
That's
So
right.
this is this would be a tape measure tool because you can do daily connect time through conversation,
Right.
really in any context that you're in.
Totally.
It's just a matter of choosing a framework that works best for you at the season of life that
Yeah.
you're in.
Yep.
So you guys have mentioned a couple. We've mentioned highs and lows. You've mentioned springboarding off of a devotional or an email. Can
Mhm.
you think of any other ways that might springboard some good daily connect time conversations?
Yeah, those are great places to start with. I think having, just any kind of resources, a way of investing in your marriage relationship. I think reminiscing to those days of dating, which kind of even brings me to another point that we want to talk about too, is like a weekly date night is something that is also so fun to be able to look forward to talk about, to plan, to take turns planning, those things that you did when you were dating that was just like, oh, you could hardly wait till your fiance came over and all the things you had planned. I think it's important to still hold on to those wonderful moments that you had in your dating relationship. And that's why we believe you should always continue to date, even after you're married. And how do you do that? I think you do that in very simple ways. And for missionaries on the field, it does not have to be something expensive. It doesn't have to be something that you even have to get a babysitter for if that was just not something that was possible. That there are I have a list of ideas that I can also share with you, Stephanie, that you could pass on if you would like.
Please.
That give a lot of good suggestions of something you can do together. So, if you've got younger children, maybe when they go to bed, this would be a great time. Okay, now it's our date night, and
And a part about that is it's being real intentional, taking these cell phones and putting them down
Mhm.
so that they're not in the way.
Mhm.
But I remember one of the things we would do it was a date, but it was an in-house date. We didn't go anywhere. We would play Scrabble
Mhm.
or a board game of sort. But
Yes.
I learned that my wife is extremely competitive when it comes to Scrabble.
Oh, Pam, I'm learning more about you now.
That's right. And we had different rules in our home. The way we played Scrabble had different rules in her home. And so we had to come to an agreement of what the rules really would be.
Yeah. Yeah. Another kind of fun date idea Again, this is promoting that conversation and relationship and deepening our relationship with each other. Is like, I love this idea of making like a 4-course meal. Talk about it, a day ahead of time, and have an appetizer and a salad and a main course and a dessert. And maybe the day before, go to the market, get the ingredients that you need and get it all ready. And then the kids go to bed and you guys just have fun making this meal together, and then put some candles on the table and have a candlelight dinner. And that to me is a whole lot of fun to do that.
Well, and that's something you can do without needing a babysitter, without leaving your house.
Right.
And so what you guys are thinking, or what you're mentioning, is making me think of a concept I heard a while back called temptation bundling. And temptation, you may have already heard of it, but it's where you take a habit that you want to form, but you don't really naturally want to form it. Like, it's hard to do. I mean, for somebody, it might be exercising, or it might be something that's good for you. Because some couples are probably listening to what you're saying going, yes, that sounds so fun. I want to start that right now. Other people might be listening going, I don't know that I want to do that, to be honest. Like, that sounds really intimidating. I don't know if I can do everyday talk time with my spouse. I mean, everybody's coming from different places, but the idea with temptation bundling is you take something that sounds hard and you bundle it with something that's easy and fun, which is what you guys were talking about. So maybe it is a great piece of dark chocolate. I mentioned that because in Peru, we have fantastic dark chocolate. Or coffee. Oh, we have such good coffee there too. So maybe it's coffee, or it's chocolate, or it's lighting a candle, or it's taking something that both of you like that's easy to do and creating an association.
Yeah.
So you think, oh, we're going to have our daily connect time, coffee and chocolate.
Yeah.
And so maybe if conversations is not what is bringing you to that point, the association with coffee and chocolate, or whatever it is for you, is getting you there. And then once you're there, you build this new pathway, this new habit through a positive association. So that was so good that you both brought that up. I think that makes it accessible really for anyone.
Yeah, I think that's really true. And one of the things I've thought of this during the COVID, I thought, okay, there's certain things we can't do or haven't been able to do like before, but what can we do?
Yeah.
What can we do? Yes, because that's a key question too, because for missionaries, M1 have been there, have done this. You sometimes hear marriage advice and you say, well, I can't do that. I'm a missionary. That doesn't work for me. And really within that, it's hard sometimes to know when something really, you can't do it. Like, I cannot get away, on a vacation this year for 2 weeks, like all of my friends in my passport country are doing. So maybe that's not realistic, but instead of going, I can't do it, it's what you're saying, Mark. What can I do? What is an adaptation of this concept that I can do?
Right.
Yeah. And I think for every couple, it's going to be different.
Exactly.
So we're just giving ideas, but each couple needs to figure out, okay, what works for us?
Right.
Yeah.
Timing is going to be an issue. Maybe if, like you said, there are people that have to be apart for a while. And the priority there, I think at times there's a priority for things that need to get done, but then you come back and you can shift the priority to relationship and the importance of connecting and having a heart connection. And even if you're away, I mean, with cell phones, we can call and talk to each other for a little bit to be able to make sure that we're connecting and showing intentional interest in one another.
Yes, right. So that daily connect time, a weekly date night, and a yearly getaway, or for some missionaries, we know that they have the visa runs that they have to do. They have to leave the country after 3 months or 6 months or whatever. And so maybe incorporating, that's what some of the missionaries that we taught, that we work with and talk with, that sometimes in those visa runs, they just add a couple days into that and make it something special and some to explore a new area, a new city that they've not been to. And that right there is just a little bit of a kind of a getaway where we can just share some fun memories together.
That is a perfect example, Pam, because I know for us, when we were in Peru full time all the time, we could not get away for those vacations. We did zero of these classic week-long vacations that we always would hear people talk about. It was not realistic or possible. Right. But what we would do is we would speak out or visit different churches in different countries or different cities. And we did exactly what you said. we would tag on a few days. And actually it ended up being such a fun way to travel because we would have a few days in the city with these pastors. They'd end up telling us all the best things in the city anyways. And then we'd have a couple days and we would know where to go and what to do. And in the beginning, I remember thinking, well, I just wish I just had a vacation where it was just a vacation and I had nothing else to do. But as you guys have mentioned, instead of whining about what we can't do, what if we get a curious mindset and start looking for opportunities and saying, Lord, show us ways to do it that are realistic, but that are possible? How can I push myself beyond the limits of my classic passport country thinking and let God show me ways that work in this season that could be so much more fun than even what I'm imagining right now?
Totally. That is so exciting and fun. And that is exactly what we've heard from many of our missionaries, that's what the way they do that, the way they have their little vacation, they just tack it on to those visa runs. So, yeah.
So you mentioned the daily connect time, a weekly date night of some sort, and then some type of yearly getaway in the creative way that works for you.
Yes. The other thing that we have shared, so we've done some different missionary conferences for marriages, missionary marriages conference. We call it a L.U.V conference.
Yeah, we called it
Love
conference.
L.U.V conference. And L is for the language of love. O is for the opportunities that we have in our relationship. So instead of obstacles, they're opportunities.
Well, when we first started, we did call them obstacles.
And
we thought, let's be more positive about this.
Yeah.
These are opportunities.
Opportunities.
I like that.
Yeah.
And then the V is a vision for your marriage, having a vision for your marriage, which we've created a booklet called Vision for Your Marriage. And E is to enjoy your marriage, to have fun. And what are ways that we, as a missionary, could have fun? And we've got a whole bunch of ideas and thoughts on that. And so, so in that, back to the V, the vision for your marriage. So if a couple is gone a little, take a time away, a few days, vacation or whatever,
or the visa run,
you could start by using this booklet to kind of help you develop a vision for your marriage. And it's like, why would I want a vision for my marriage? And I think if you have something that you together have prayed about, you've talked to each other about, and you've written it down, it's your guide, it's your guideline to living your lives together as missionaries. I like some of these questions. Why did God bring you together as a husband and wife? What is his purpose and plan for your life as a couple? Are there dreams God has given us that we need to remember and pray with more diligence? These are questions that are deep to think about. This is where conversation can really begin to happen. We write these things down and we revisit them every year. And in this booklet, there's also a category for our family, for children, for finances, for spiritual growth, for our health. And then at the back of the book is an opportunity to develop your own marriage vision statement. So what is important? What are the values that we have as a married couple that we want to write down and maybe even post in our house to say, this is important to us and this is what we live by? And if we don't have things that are written down, chances are we're not going to really follow through on those things. But if they're right before us, well, we're gonna do them because they're there to look at us every day.
That's powerful. And I love that along with vision, you mentioned values. I think sometimes people, when they try to think of how to create a marriage vision statement or even a personal vision statement, it's like, how do I even get going with that? I mean, that just sounds so big and overarching, but values are such a great starting point. And as individuals, we have values, but you also have values in your marriage and your family. I remember there was a book by Patrick Lencioni that I read a while back, specifically about families. I do not recall the name of it. I'll put it in the podcast notes, but it was about creating a strategy for your family. And we did that. And it was really is such a fun exercise to identify what are our values as a family. What are some of the things that are most important to us? I mean, one of ours is hospitality. That popped up right away. We love having people over. We love helping people feel at home. And there's something about intentionalizing your values that makes you live them out more.
Yes.
That's very true.
I don't know what it is, but you say it and all of a sudden it's not even that you weren't doing it and then you do it. You identify it because you were doing it, but you do it with more gusto, with more excitement. Like, yes, we are the hospitality people. And so let's do this.
That's right.
It's easier to throw yourself into it. So that's a powerful exercise that I think any couple could do, to maybe do some individual values and then say, what is our family all about? Or what is our marriage about? What do we love? What do we do? What are we good at doing? And what does God call us to do?
Yes.
That's a great starting point for any conversation. So, and we're going to have a link to that manual or that booklet in the show notes. So thank you guys so much for making that available to all the missionaries who are listening.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I would say about it too is it's actually given us greater focus as we've talked about the different things that we want to be a part of. It's given us ideas and thoughts on how to interact with our children and grandchildren. We've got 7 grandchildren right now. And during this time, I feel as if God gave us just more ways that we can encourage and support and be praying for each of those people that are in our lives and the things that we do as well.
Yeah. Plus, I think it guides our decision making too, because it's like if we were going to, let's say we're going to purchase something or whatever. Well, how does it fit within the vision of our marriage? You know, this is something that, you know, again, we really highly encourage everybody to take time to pray before you even do it. So you have the mind of the Lord, you have his heart about it. And then it's just, there's one particular missionary couple, it's so fun. They look so forward to doing this every year, to revisit it, and they do their little getaway, and we're doing our vision for our marriage this week. You know, it's like, yay. I just love it.
I think they do it in connection with their anniversary.
Yes. Yeah.
That's a reminder. Isn't that a cool way of doing it?
It is. And what a good point about revisiting it, because you can create it, but then you can almost forget what it is. I know with ours, we say Gutierrez, never give up. And so we actually contracted a Peruvian artist to paint a picture of it. And so we actually have a picture of it on our wall, and there's a picture of each one of us kind of doing some of our favorite hobbies. And that saying is right there in the center. And that's been a theme we use in our family. So when the kids were struggling at school or struggling with friendships, or we were struggling because of something going on, at church or in ministry or in missions, we would look at each other and go, Gutierrez, don't give up. and then one of us, we all end up laughing and going, that's right. We hang in there. That's what we do. We're determined, we're resilient. And so that was one of our values or our statements that we came up with. So this can actually be fun. And for couples, I mean, I love what we're talking about marriage today, but you can extend this. You can do it with your marriage, but you can also do it with your kids. It is fascinating to ask your kids what they think your values are. Like, what do you think is important to us as a family? And it can be sometimes disturbing, sometimes exciting, always very revelatory to see what it is that they think is important in your family too. Yes. So this is beautiful what you've brought up, because this extends I beyond even marriage, I think even into family, or even as an individual. For somebody listening to this who's single, you can come up with your own set of values.
That's exactly
so.
Right.
Thank you both so much for all that you shared today. There's so much practical advice. I think everybody listening today is going to have a bunch of options to choose from. Where do I even start with all of this? So this is fantastic. We will have links to all of the resources that were mentioned. And then we just want to remind everybody who's listening to subscribe to the podcast, to leave a review, and make sure to share this with somebody who you think would really benefit from hearing it. And if you have questions that you'd like to be answered in future episodes, make sure to send those to care@modernday.org. Pam and Mark, thank you again so much for joining us today. Really appreciated having you both.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. We've just so loved just connecting with you, and we hope that this is just in a small way helpful to some couple serving on the mission field. We love you, and we just appreciate everything that you're doing for the kingdom of God.
I love that we all get to be in missions and serve missions together. All of us the three of us together, and then everyone who's listening.
Yes.
So I am grateful. Well, thank you to all of us who joined us today listening. We will see you on our next episode.